Did you already do? I did.
Have to get
I-
35 signatures.
Good evening. I'm calling the August 9th, 2023 meeting of the Manitou Springs Planning Commission to order. First item is, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Graybill,
Present.
Commissioner Armstrong, Commissioner Casey,
Present.
Commissioner Storm, Commissioner Latimer,
Present.
Commissioner Day.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, first thing we'll do here is our public comment portion of the meeting. And this is for public comment intended for items that are not scheduled on the agenda to be discussed. And public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. When you're called upon, you'll be asked to state your full name and address for the record. And it's important to understand that public comment is not an interactive question and answer forum, but rather a time for you to state your comments on a particular item or issue. At the 3 minute mark, I'll ask that you wrap up for your final sentence. So with that, we've opened public comment. If anybody would like to speak, step to the table. Oh, you have to push the green button there and get real close. No, just push it. It turns green. The little talker thing there in the middle.
There we go. You got me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is John Bruner. I live at 24 Minnehaha Avenue with my wife Meredith, who's right here. I just wanted to make a quick public comment, and I prepared some material around it, some very basic material. I wanted to make the public comment to address the not formally planned or presented proposal of West End development around what is Camp Manitou Springs, or proposed to be Camp Manitou Springs, with the current property that's owned by the Waltons and managed by Adventures Out West on the west side of town. A little bit in response to the neighborhood meeting that we had about a month ago. I think that was July 11th, if anybody was there. I see some familiar faces, but I wanted to address that and talk a little bit about that. My wife and I are new residents to this area, and took a lot of consideration before we poured our life savings into a place to settle down. We read Plan Manitou multiple times, which is mostly what the excerpts from this document address. Plan Manitou played a huge part in our relocating from Minturn, Colorado to this area to decide to raise our children and grow a family here. I think that the neighborhood meeting showed a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm for the neighborhood response to what was proposed. I think that what I am, really meaning to do today is just to provide resources for people that I think are very notable as we look at the, eventual planning changes that they might be proposing, and with the zoning obviously happening first and everything development aspect from there. It was quite a large scale development that they were proposing that has, rebounding effects on not just our city here of Manitou Springs, not just that west end side of town, but Colorado Springs metropolitan area, and ultimately the entire Front Range urban corridor as a whole. So I just wanted to put that in front of everybody today. And let everybody know that people like me, people who are new to the area, are paying lots of attention to this, and that I formally believe it's very contrary to the Plan Manitou, that we read and that we decided to move here for. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that we're here, and we'd appreciate full transparency on that. I was one who didn't get one of those mailers in the letter or the notification of that neighborhood meeting, even though my property actually borders the most land border with the proposed redevelopment. So just wanted to make sure that everybody's on the same page, getting me involved, getting the neighborhood and community involved, and that we're all ready to go with that as we anticipate them, we fully anticipate them moving forward with that. That's my comment.
Thank you. If anybody else would like to speak on a non-agenda item, now is the time. Okay, seeing no takers, I'll close a public comment and we'll move on with our meeting. Next item is approval of the June 14th minutes. Do I have a motion? Would anybody like?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Raise your hand. I think that was when you were absent.
We're trying, it's acting a little odd tonight. So let me try to reconnect really quickly. And we have not yet, thank you for catching that. We did receive comments from Commissioner Casey with an adjustment to the minutes. We did review that section of the minutes, and it seems like the comment in question was made by Chair Delwich. However, the motion was actually made by Commissioner Casey. So we believe that the minutes are correct as shown. Okay. No, I appreciate it. We went back and watched it again, and so but let me try to reconnect our audio real quick.
Just 1, 2.
Yeah, this is the same issue that we had the night we were reading the zoning code for the first time. And let's see if restarting works this time. And remember, it didn't work that night. Test, test.
Test.
Okay, thank you.
Test, test. Oh, is that working?
I think so.
Nice. There we go.
Okay, so, yep. Much better. Okay, I think we're in the middle of the vote for the June 14th minutes. Okay, that's 4 of us were there, so we're all, the other 3 are abstaining. And next item will be the July 12th meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve July 12th.
Okay. A sec.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Let's move on. We'll go to the first business item, and I'll just describe the process before we go on. I'll call an item for consideration, and planning staff will describe what the request was. and what their findings and analysis are and any recommendations that they may have. Following that, we'll allow the applicant to speak and state their case. And following that, we will open the hearing to the public, and anyone in the public is entitled to express their opinion on that particular item. And we'll be following guidance from our land use and development code. We don't legislate, we just interpret what's in the code and make our decisions based on that. With that, are there any ex parte contacts or conflicts to disclose? No. Okay, so we'll move on. The first item of new business is temporary use permit 2301 302 Manitou Avenue. Request to modify approval of temporary use permit.
Chair Delwich, I don't believe the applicant is in attendance. I would like to, oh, sorry. Hi. Okay. So, sorry, I was looking for Greg. Okay, great. Let me just share my screen. This is a amendment to a previously granted major temporary use permit, MJT 2304, which was granted in June 2023 and allowed for the temporary storage and rental of e-bikes at 302 Manitou, 304 Manitou, and 306 Manitou. They're three addresses on the same property. This request specifically would like to expand the scope of those services at that location and would include the sale of e-bikes and accessories as well as e-bike service from that same accessory structure in the parking lot of 302 Manitou. The zone is commercial and the proposed hours are changed slightly from the original request. The proposed hours for this request are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday, closed on Monday. Nothing else other than the slight change in hours and the proposed scope of services has changed from the previous request to this request. Staff previously informed the applicant that a major development plan will be required for a permanent change of use, which includes various studies and physical site improvements, such as a site plan, drainage plan, landscape plan, and an ecological characterization study, as well as all of the site improvements that would go along with those plans. So the applicant is aware that should this use become permanent, they would be required to go through those processes, which would also include hearings before this body for a major development plan, which would qualify as a change of use, essentially. Staff is not supportive of this use becoming permanent without completing those processes and the associated improvements. This application, staff's recommendation for this application as currently presented is approval with the condition that the major temporary use permit would expire 1 year from the date of approval. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, the applicant, could you please step to the table and state your name and address for the record?
Am I on already? Yep. All right. My name is Sam Cobble. My address is 1207 Manitou Avenue.
And the floor is yours. Anything you'd like to add, or you're
Yeah.
comfortable with the staff findings, recommendation?
Yeah, so far. But yeah, we're just asking to be able to temporarily sell bikes at that location. With that being said, that building's really small there. You guys know that. The bikes would be displayed outdoors. The inside would strictly be for staff. The inside would include bike servicing and the storage of the bikes. The customers would not enter the building. There's a window in that building through which we can do all the transactions that we may need. I know there was some concern or a request as far as painting the parking spots there. We're happy to oblige and do that.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Mike?
Not a question or a requirement, just a suggestion for improvement. The 5-gallon buckets you have holding up that tent
Mhm.
are very unattractive. If you want to just take a minute to do something, that would be great.
Yeah. To what aspect are they unattractive?
I think they're Ace Hardware buckets. They're just buckets,
Okay.
5 minutes of paint or a flower or something would be nice.
Okay. That will be done. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? David?
What happens after a year? What are your long-term plans?
Our long-term plans, we're currently working on the minor development plan permit. We're going to be sending that application over in the next few weeks and hope for this to be reviewed and approved by early spring. So we're in talks with the owner of that property, Sal, and he's been working with us well as far as expanding or developing a new and existing structure on that area. So at this current point in time, we are leasing at a 906 Manitou Avenue, Suite 102. We're entering the winter. We do have someone who is interested in moving into that space. So we're just looking to try to get the ball rolling and moving over while we have that interest.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. You can. Yeah, just turn off this mic there.
Okay,
And
thank you.
we'll bring you back if we have any more questions. Okay, the public comment portion of this hearing is open now. If anybody in the audience would like to comment on this one, now would be the time. Okay, now seeing no takers, I'll close the public comment portion and we're ready for a motion or conversation.
I'd like to move approval of major temporary use permit with the following condition that the temporary use permit will expire 1 year from the date of approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, is any more discussion? If not, then let's vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous, so good luck. Now move on. The next item of business is variance 2301, 701 Prospect Place. Side yard setback variance 4 feet where 7.5 feet is required.
Hold on just a moment. Sorry about that. Let me get that slideshow pulled up. Great, thank you. For the record, Kelsey Lanham, with the planning department. My laptop, since the remodel, does not connect to internet very well, so Chelsea will be navigating this PowerPoint. So the request is for a side yard setback, like you said, for 4 feet where 7.5 feet is required. It's at 701 Prospect Place. The existing structure was built in 1950 and is zoned general residential, and it is within the Midland Historic District. The structure is considered a legal non-conforming due to setbacks being established at a later date. The Historic Preservation Commission approved MCAC 2312, which was for the second story addition
at the July 5th, 2023 HPC regular meeting contingent of this variance approval. Staff received one email in opposition of this variance application. The email was received this morning, so it did not go out in the packet, but staff provided commissioners with a hard copy. In addition, staff received one phone call today as well from an immediate neighbor at 703 Prospect Place, requesting more information about what a setback was and what a variance was. After explanation of why the application was needed and requested, they stated they had no problem with this application and that a variance makes sense for the addition. So this site plan shows the existing structure. It's outlined in red and has 701 on top of it. The property line on which the variance is requested for is the one highlighted on the left side. And this is a proposed rendering facing the front of the structure and what it would look like with that second story addition. The side yard setback is for the west property line. There is a residence on the west of the subject property that is 703. There is no immediate structures on the east property line. Rather, it's Pawnee Avenue. So the approval criteria for a variance is as followed. No variance shall be authorized unless the planning commission finds that all the following criteria have been met. The endorsement of the variance by adjacent landowners does not relieve the applicant of the burden of meeting the requirements set forth in this section. It is staff's determination that for number one, the variance will not develop areas of risk of natural hazard. And for number two, like I mentioned, the planning department received 2 public comments on this item, one in opposition and one supportive or no.
Neutral.
Opinion. Neutral. Thank you. In addition, a variance request must meet a minimum of 4 of the following criteria. It is staff's determination that the following criteria is met. Number 1, and then due to the existing location of the structure, a variance is required for a seamless second story addition. If the applicant were to step in the addition to the 7.5 feet, it could create an architectural design that doesn't match existing structures in the neighborhood. Number 2, the proposed height of the structure is less than 25 feet. So the number of variances requested is being limited to 1. Number 4, the variance application is not the result of previous owners' actions. And number 6, staff determined the structure to be non-contributing and will not alter the visual continuity of the neighborhood. Should the City Planning Commission find it appropriate to grant variance 2301, staff does not recommend any conditions. And this concludes my presentation. The applicant is online as she could not be in attendance in person. However, her contractors are in person tonight to answer any questions if you may have any. Thank you.
I have a question. You said there was one negative comment. What was the reason for that?
So it's in the email printout that I provided for you. They had a worry about the parking requirements.
So I have a question about that email also.
Mhm.
It seems to refer to the subject property as creating a duplex. Is this a single family home or are they creating a second story that is another unit?
So they are creating a second unit. However, a duplex is a permitted use by right in the residential zone district.
Is the parking issue addressed anywhere in the application? Is it?
It is not. There is parking behind the structure that staff determines that it would be sufficient for the duplex.
Is there an alleyway there?
There is.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff? Steve, did you get your question answered?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, so would the applicant's representative like to?
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Are you the applicant?
I am. I'm having a hard time seeing and hearing on Zoom, but I think we've got it now. So my name's Katie Pickard. I own 701 Prospect Place. Currently living at 5830 Unita Road in Cascade. So happy to address anything about parking. I think there are at least 4 spots on the property that are not on the street itself. But what other questions can I answer for you?
Can you turn your camera on or are you limited?
I'm looking at the options. I don't see an option to turn on my camera. Let me see. It doesn't give me that option. It gives me the option to mute or unmute, but that's it.
Okay, well, we'll do what we can. Okay, do you have anything else you'd like to add to the record or more conversation? Oh, looks like you went away.
Sorry, Katie, could you please repeat that? It cut out a little bit while you were being promoted to panelist. And you
Okay,
should
I think
turn your camera on now if you try.
I can see it. I'm sorry. I'm getting in Steamboat. So I'm in the state of Colorado. I'm just not close enough to be with you in person. So thanks for accommodating me. No other comments. That was a great summary. Chelsea and Kelsey, you've both been very helpful throughout this process.
Any questions for the applicant? So I just have one. So I sort of wasn't focused. I was worried about your camera. So I know you said something about parking. You have like up to 4 spaces, you said? I
have not measured, but I know I have parked 3 cars there, you know, with having company over, that's off street parking. And since we're not changing the existing footprint of the structure, I think that would be maintained. So I don't anticipate any issues with parking. And while the plans are built to be available as a duplex, it's also available as a single family home. So I mentioned this during the historic committee meeting, but my parents are getting older. They live in Florida currently. I'm up here with them in Steamboat now. And tentative plans are for them to occupy the first floor, which would be single story living. And ADA accessible, and then I would live on the second story. But depending on how their health goes, if that doesn't work out, it certainly could be repurposed as a single family home, but trying to have some options when I do the addition.
Great, thank you. Other questions? Okay, so with that, I'll open the hearing to the public. If anybody in the audience would like to comment on this item, now would be the time. Okay, seeing no takers, I'll close the public comment portion of this meeting. And
I'm confused. We've addressed this before, but I don't think there's any clear guidance. Getting objections or any kind of input at the last minute is kind of mind bending for me, and it's not really, it doesn't respect the planning department's working this up in advance. Plus, which I'm still struggling to understand what that parking issue was, but are we allowing last minute comments? Is that, I mean, I think we should extend ourselves to get input from neighbors and anyone who's interested, but.
yeah, in my thinking, when it showed up on the dais this evening, but I don't see that as being much different from someone from the audience stepping to the mic and speaking. So I'm okay with that. I think, and I think the planning department addressed the parking. They analyzed that, and it sounds like there is adequate parking for this use.
I didn't hear that. Maybe
Yeah.
I didn't hear that from the planning department, so maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Commissioner Storm asked a question, I believe after Commissioner Graybill did, and that's when I answered it. It wasn't in the initial presentation, because it wasn't deemed as a problem, but then Commissioner Storm was the one who inquired about the parking.
Okay, we're ready for a motion if there's a, or more discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve variance 2301 at 701 Prospect Place without conditions.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? And then let's vote. All in favor? Okay, so it's unanimous. So we're done with that one. Thank you. Okay, with that, we move on to any other business.
Thank you, Chair Delich. I do have one quick housekeeping item. We are this week moving into the new planning department office suite, which you guys have seen walking by. We're really excited. It looks great. I think it'll be very functional for our department. We are that office will officially be up and running and open to the public on August 14th, which is already this upcoming Monday. We are still here in office for any walk-ins. We are answering phones still. We're just a little bit disorganized for this week. But we also have a new file room, which might be the nicest file room in the whole country, given that it overlooks the creek, which is actually very calming and nice when you're trying to pull files. But yeah, so we will be all moved in officially next Monday.
Great.
Just generically speaking, if there is a town hall meeting on any topic, are we encouraged or discouraged to attend?
So it depends on the topic. If it is regarding a quasi judicial matter, then commissioners and city council members should not attend because it could form prejudgment ahead of a hearing. And that particular commissioner may need to recuse themselves at the actual hearing just to make sure that that prejudgment wasn't formed and isn't influencing the hearing format of planning commission meetings. But if it is about a general topic such as traffic on Manitou Avenue, then that is perfectly okay. So if it's about a particular application that will come before the planning commission, I would recommend not. And that would be our city attorney's advice as well, I believe.
Thanks.
Also, just a side note, if you are planning to attend any publicly noticed meetings, it would be great if you would just let us know. That way we can keep track of whether or not we need to notice it for this particular body as well, if there are more than 3 commissioners in attendance.
Okay, if there's no other business, any notice of council action or updates?
Nothing comes to mind immediately, but let me check some past agendas and I'll send an email if I miss something.
Great, thank you. Okay, if no other questions, then we are adjourned.
Sweet.